Okay, this video is going to help everybody with the measurement and specification sheet. This is an assignment both the distance learners need to do and the hybrid learners. So if you have any questions about this, I'm going to refer you to the video. This is going to be about a 5-minute video going over everything. What is a spec or a specification? Why do we use them? And where do you find that information in the resources that I've posted in Moodle? I think folks are going to see this is pretty straightforward once I start going through it, but what you want to do first here is navigate to Moodle. You can either access these items through the week 6 checklist, or you can click right here on unit 4, engine manufacturer unit, and we're going to go to the first thing we want to go and find is that specification sheet and measurement sheet, and I'm listing the 60,000 model right here. So I'm giving you basically the very first answer, but if you click on that, you can go ahead and open this as a Google Doc if you want. You can type right in it, put your name on it. For the hybrid learners, if I pass these out in person, you can take it home and fill it out at home as a hard copy and record. Hybrid learners will actually do the measurement aspect of this sheet as well. Distance learners, you're just finding the specifications. So go ahead and open that up. I'm just going to leave mine. Go back here. I've actually got another copy right here that I can open with the Google Doc pretty easy. Go back here and I'm going to scroll up to this area where it says instructional resources in Moodle. All right, in this area you can find basically everything you need to fill out that sheet. Don't jump around on the sheet, go through it step by step. So if you're looking at the sheet, the very first thing obviously is your name. The make, we're using a Briggs & Stratton, okay? So if you go to the general service manual right here, this is the very first one you want to start looking at for this sheet. Here we are, Briggs & Stratton. So you type Briggs & Stratton in there. Okay. The model, well, I've given you guys the model right here on the sheet, but it's a 60,000 series, model series. All right, and we're using, so the 60,100 would fall under the 60,000 model series. So just type in under the model, 60,000. Okay, bore, stroke, and displacement. All that can be found right here in this manual. You scroll through this. It is going to take you a little bit of time to dig down and find some of this stuff. But if you scroll through this, you'll get to the end, towards the end of this, and it will list your bore, stroke, and displacement. Record those on the sheet. All right. Okay, so you get the general information filled out. That's the first thing you need to do. What that does is it helps us identify what motor we're working with. This is why I had you guys do a little discussion post looking up your lawnmower at home too. It's important you know how to identify the model and the series, and if you ever need parts for that motor, you can use that to order parts. You call down to CNS or a different store, order them online. Okay, this is where we start getting into more detailed specifications. Okay, this is saying cylinder bore specification. Okay, B all the way down to here is done after we've measured our actual cylinder bore. So if you're a hybrid learner, you'll remember we use a telescoping gauge when we measure the cylinder bore. We're looking for elongation and taper. Okay, so we're looking to see if we're out of round and seeing if we have a taper like a cone, for instance, on our cylinder, if our piston's worn that cylinder down. So that's what this second part here, B through B minus C, those are things you're going to fill out after you complete the measurements. Okay, so for purposes of this assignment, we just need to find the spec. What the spec is basically the spec is like a checkpoint. So let's just use 1 inch as an example. So if my cylinder specification was 1.000 and I measured these and I was getting, let's say I had 1.000 here, but I got 1. I'll just exaggerate it, 1.500, so 1.5 inches. Okay, so that means that my cylinder is a 1/2 inch out of round. That would never happen, but just as an example, I verify that my cylinder measurements are within tolerance based on this specification or this gauge or this guide number. So that's what a specification is. I've had some questions on that. So you go through and fill these out when you, the C, D, E, F, G, we do that when we measure, okay? All right, so where do you find these other specifications? We'll head back here to the resources, instructional resources. A lot of information can be found in the table of contents here. Take a look at, you're reading this chart. This is our 60,000 series. If we want to find any information on our armature, our idle speed, our valve clearance, valve reject, gauge, different torque specifications, they're all along the top here. You will need to use some of that information as you go through the packet, so I want you to understand that it is available here in the table of contents. It's right here as well. There's some information right here on cylinder resizing. There's some information here on ring reject sizes. Okay, so there's a lot of information just on those first 2 pages, but say we were trying to figure out the cylinder, we could go down here to cylinder and bearing specs. And I've made this pretty easy for you. I've pointed you in the right direction. Cylinder and bearing specs, go through this. And here we are measuring with that telescoping gauge the different points in that cylinder. Okay. Now, if we're wondering what our cylinder bore is, we want to record all of our measurements in inches. So like standard bore size here, 2.3125 to 2.3115. So we have a little bit of a tolerance in there. Okay, not a lot, but a little. Looks like we got about 10 thousandths of an inch. Okay, so if we're going to write that in there, we would just put in for our measurement, spec here is 3.125, 2.3125, 2.3125 to 2.3115, and that's our specification. And then, like I said, the rest of these we'll do when we measure. So if you're a high distance learner, you're just doing the spec. Okay, piston land wear and so on. And then when you get down here to the valves, take a look once again in these instructional resources. They literally label it here. Valve specs can be found here. So I'm pointing you in the right direction. I'm not going to give you guys the answer. You're going to have to get in here and dig into this text and find these answers. So do your best, try to find what you can, and shoot me an email if you have any questions.